trying to get Great Lakes Bee Supply in it, so I'm going to see a little more of you than normal. Want to stand a minute here?
We on yet?
Yep.
Both of them?
Yep.
Can you see your head?
Yep.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Great Lakes Bee Supply question and answer classes. We've had people in today that had questions and mostly about the bearding that your bees have done. As you advance farther into the year, with the amount of bees that you're going to have in your hive, there's a good chance, even with a screen bottom and a screen inner cover, you're going to have bearding happen. Totally fine, doesn't hurt anything. You know, they're just out there trying to keep cool. Somebody said, part of you got to move out of the hive, and it's not a problem that you have to worry about. We've had a lot of reports concerning beetles. And from what we can see and from what other people are seeing this year, the beetle population has been really low. A couple people have had beetles, but almost everybody else has only had one or two beetles or no beetles at all when they use their little black beetle trap to monitor what's in the hive. Aren't seeing beetles this year. It's not near as bad as it was 2 years ago. The Rolamites, people are starting right now to do like their kind of the midsummer treatment.
The heavy treatments.
To knock down the Rolamites. And then you can do a final treatment at the end of the year, just before, like 2 or 3 weeks before you close up your hive. You can do it again in order to knock the biggest amount of Rolamites down. But Rolamites so far haven't been all that much of a problem either. So things this year are really pretty good. I think everybody's bees are doing fine. I mean, people are coming in and buying boxes and putting honey supers on. We have one guy in today that's 4 deep boxes, 4 brood boxes high. And I told him, I said, probably your 3rd and your 4th one are pretty much going to be honey. He said, yep, that's exactly right. He said, I went to lift the 4th one off to inspect it. And he says, I couldn't hardly lift it off. It was chock full of honey. And quite often that's what happens is your 3rd or your 4th or anything above your 2nd quite often is going to be just honey. So he bought a 6-inch super today and he was going to put on the top. We have one hive at our house that is 4 high right now, and I'm going to put a honey super on top of that. But I know there's already probably 100 pounds of honey in it. Keep in mind, when your hive gets that big, say you're 4 boxes high. If you are 4 boxes high, good chance the 4th box is going to be 100% honey. So it is possible that you could look your hive over, do an inspection on it, see what the 3rd box is doing. If the 3rd box is full of honey, then what I would probably do would be to pull the 4th box off, the very top 4th box off that's full of honey, and then leave the 3rd box on and maybe put a 6-inch honey super on. And then you can process that 4th box that's full of honey, because you're still going to have quite a bit of honey or all honey in the 3rd box, and the 6-inch honey super will give you room for the bees to move up. Because remember, there's 2 things that make the bees swarm. The queen doesn't have room to lay eggs, or the workers don't have any place to bring back pollen to make honey. As long as you give them room for both of those, there's a good chance that more bees leave the hive because there's not enough room to have the workers make honey rather than the queen, because the queen will pretty much spend her time in the bottom 2 boxes, and she lays enough so she can go from one box back down to the other. So
real quick, just to interject, on Facebook, somebody says that our feed is choppy. Did that improve at all? Make sure you can hear us and see us okay, because we don't know what we look like out there. Also, if you have questions on Facebook or on YouTube, type them in. Send us questions. If you have questions, problems, concerns, even input, let us know how your hives are doing. Let us know where you're from, where you're watching from. We haven't done this video in about 2 weeks. We used to do these on Sunday, but our stores were so busy we couldn't get the time to stop from the stores to be able to get here to be able to do the Q and A's. So we moved them to Saturdays, and it has still been crazy. But today we just locked the door just a few minutes ago so we could do these. But we're going to be back on our normal schedule to do our classes at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, every Saturday. So good. Thank you. So anyway, if you have questions, let us know. Let us know where you're from, or let us know if you have any beekeeping questions or native bee questions or anything like that. We'll try to help you out. We got to start thinking about fall, right? We all actually have had such a crazy year this year, but we are actually going to start thinking about fall here soon, because our normal schedule is, at least for our county here in Michigan, that our fair would be coming up. County fair would be coming up here soon at the beginning of August. We're not going to obviously have that, unfortunately, this year, but usually fair time and when kids start to go back to school is when we start to think about the third segment of our summertime or the bees activity, and we start to think about fall, and we start to think about what we need to do for our bees to start thinking about preparing them for cooler weather and more rain, and eventually needing to close them up for winter. So, we don't usually sell products on this. That's not the reason for this, even though we are a supply store, but you want to start thinking about health. So you want to start making sure that you're doing your varroa mite treatments, right? You should have already done a couple of those this year. If you have not done one of those and you're one of the many procrastinators for your varroa mite treatments, you need to buckle down and you need to get out there and start doing those, because your varroa mite treatments, if you have them in your hive, your varroa mite population is going to be high. If your hive has been growing and so has your varroa mite population, you're going to have a high amount of varroa mite in your hive by now. So make sure you're treating to knock that population down. If you have not done a varroa mite treatment yet this year, don't start with a powdered sugar treatment, right? That's supposed to be more of a preventative than it is an actual treatment. So I would recommend doing actual strips or doing an actual oxalic acid treatment. You can still do the drone brood frames for a little while longer, but make sure you're thinking about that a little bit, because if you don't get that population under control in your hive, you're going to have a struggling hive this fall and could eventually lose your bees over the winter if they're having a problem. The next thing you want to do is start thinking about health, right? So here we use the Honeybee Healthy. We put this product, here I'll show you a little closer. We put this product in our sugar water and things. When we start coming, I know it's reversed on the screen, I'm sorry, but both the cameras are pointing the other way. So it's Honeybee Healthy, and it's basically a feeding stimulant with essential oils, and it can help with the health and strength of the immune system for a hive in general. And if we start giving that to them in the next 3 or 4 weeks, we can boost their immune system and help with the hive and help be a little bit stronger as we start to get into the fall, as their nectar and pollen sources start to dwindle slowly. We need to start thinking about fall already, unfortunately, because it takes a little bit of time, right? When you do a treatment, For varroa mite, if you use the strips, you're looking at several weeks and then a break and then several more weeks just to do a treatment. You don't want to start that too late because you're going to be treating too late into the season. So you want to start thinking about getting your treatments and getting any long-term things you need to do. Also, splits to your hive, you want to start thinking about, that's about over. Our recommendation, again, for northern, we're in the lower part of Michigan. I know everybody's from different spots, so we kind of have to keep telling you, make sure you're thinking about where you're living versus where we're living. But we're in southern Michigan, but we're still a northern state. And so we need to consider when we're working with our bees, some of the things that we do in the spring, we need to make sure that, or in the fall, we need to make sure that we're thinking about being proactive about those things. And our area is just about over with splits. If we make splits from big hives and we make another hive any much later than the next couple of weeks, then they're not going to have enough time to put enough honey away to be able to be successful through the winter. So you're either going to have to feed the heck out of them over the winter, or they're going to have some issues. So if you're thinking about, I might want to do a split, but I haven't looked in the hive because it's been hot, try to get in the hive and look, because if you think you need to do a split, you better get that done ASAP, because we're going to be past that window here, at least for southern Michigan, shortly.
It looks like the first part of next week is going to cool down considerably. Tomorrow is going to be hot and humid. So if you were planning on doing a hive check, I know sometimes you only have time on the weekends, but if you could postpone it till Monday or Tuesday, you would see that your bees are going to be a lot more comfortable when you get into the hive with them. Today at the store, we also had a lady come in that, that joined the Battle Creek Bee Club. And we're going to do a shout out to the Battle Creek Bee Club. She joined the club, went there as a novice beekeeper, just this year started. And she said the people at the Battle Creek Bee Club went more than out of their way to help her answer some questions and give her some pointers. Kyle from over there helped out a lot. He's getting to be quite a beekeeper now. But the Battle Creek Bee Club has a very good reputation for being friendly and good information for things that you're doing or things that they're doing there, and they're easy to get along with. So we're going to do a shout out for the Battle Creek Bee Club. Good job.
Woo! All right. So does anybody have any questions? This may be a short little tidbit. We just kind of wanted to give you this keeps cutting me off. Hold on. There. We wanted to give you just kind of an update about maybe where you should be, what you should be thinking about over the next couple of weeks. Just kind of touching base with you. You know, it's hard to keep in touch with everybody right now because, trying to physically keep distance from people. You know, our stores are open, but we're not doing any classes. We did very few classes, unfortunately, this year in person just because we couldn't do them any other way. So we do have our classes online, the schoolofbeekeeping.com. For our combo classes, for our beginner classes, we have not yet put any other classes up there. We had a little bit of trouble with our classes. We got the first two up, and we've had to do some back of the house changes to the whole website in order to be able to handle the kind of time that we were putting into the videos and the size of the videos. So those should be that should be fixed here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll start putting some other videos up there. Specifically our winterization class, our fall class, we will probably put that up within the next, 30 days or so that it's up a little bit sooner so that everybody knows what's coming and can kind of be mentally prepared for that. So just keep an eye out for those. Those will be on the schoolofbeekeeping.com. You can go to our website, greatlakesbeesupply.com, to find the link to the School of Beekeeping, but we'll put that up there also, and just try to give you a heads up on thinking about winter. I know it's still soon, but we are now coming into the to the fall part of the season here in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and we want to be thinking about that a little bit. So if you don't have any other questions, do you have anything else you want to cover, touch on?
Just keep in mind that you may have witnessed your bees bearding on the front of your hive. That's a common thing that will happen when it gets to 85 to 90 degrees every day, even with a screen bottom and a screen inner cover. Because our hives are under a roof, I pretty much lifted my lid up and slid it forward on top of the screen. So the screen is always in place. But I slid the top forward so that I had about 4 inches of open screen that I could physically look at. And that has a tendency to let the air come out more, let the air travel through it. If you're 3 or 4 boxes deep, it will help. Although with 4 boxes deep, there's going to be 60,000 bees in there, and they pretty much clog up the airflow through there. But you can take your entrance reducer and lift it up a little bit in the back and put your entrance reducer right under the rim, and that will hold it up so that your lid is up maybe 3/4 to an inch above your screen in the back of it. Then if water gets on it, the water will run off the front and not go inside it. But if it gets hot and you notice some bearding, there's nothing wrong at all with opening up the top of your frame a little bit, just as long as you make sure water doesn't get in it, and let a little bit more air travel through there to keep them a little cooler, and then they'll be just fine. Bearding doesn't hurt anything. It's just that we've got one big one, 4-box high, and they've been bearding on that for 2 weeks. And never a huge amount, but even in the morning at 6:45 when I leave, there's a mass of them that big right on the front, and they're just out there camping out and sleeping just to stay a little cool. But it's not uncommon to have that happen, so don't really worry too much about that.
Also, thank you for the likes. And we see the little thumbs and the little faces and the little hearts and stuff that are going when you guys do that. So we appreciate that both on YouTube and on Facebook. So, Karen, do you have any bee jackets and Formic Pro in stock? We have plenty of bee jackets, Karen, but today I set aside and the last 3 Formic Pro mite treatments left. We're completely out because we had somebody come in with an awful lot of hives a couple of days ago, and they bought everything except the last 3 we had, which was a lot. We thought we were ahead, and we ended up being quickly behind. But I do know Christy has more product coming in, so I suspect yet this next week we should be getting that all in. So just give a call to the store and double check before you come in, make sure we get it. But we will be getting that in, the Formic Pro specifically. We will have the Apalife VAR, and we will have the oxalic acid crystals, and we will have, what was the last one? Apavar Life. An Apavar, and then we have the ApaGuard, and then we'll have the Formic Pro. So we'll get all that in here. We do have the ApaGuard. We have the ApaGuard packets still in. Those work fine. The gel that you take the top off and set it in the top, and the bees grab the gel and take it down through the hive and dispose of it. That spreads it throughout the hive. We do have 3 or 4 boxes left of those. So we have quite a bit of that left, but we're out of the strips right now. So won't be too long. Anybody else have any other questions while we're here? We'll answer them if you've got them. If not, we'll be doing this back again every Saturday. I apologize to everybody. It's been crazy, as it has been for everybody. Timing and routines and everything are super duper off. So, Nicole, Formic Pro for mite treatments with honey supers on. Anything else safe for honey supers? Yes, the Formic Pro can be used with supers on during honey flow. There's no problem with that. I tell you, I'm noticing right now while I'm looking at the Apicard that the packaging is a different color and the words are different, and I have not looked at the new packaging. I usually, and I don't have any of the, there are some Apivar down there in the bottom, in the back. I usually recommend, because it's always safe for us, whenever somebody asks questions about the strips or the Varroa treatments in general, I always try to refer you to the packaging, because it just seems like every single year the ingredients they may put in those, or the directions for being able to use those change. I don't know why they change all the time, but I get so that I learn which ones are and which ones aren't. And then all of a sudden I read the back and I'm like, oh, well, now I can't do that because they've added a new chemical to it or something. So sent question on YouTube. I didn't see it, Ken, on YouTube on the comments. I'm looking at our YouTube right now and I don't have any comments. So go ahead and send it here. So Nicole, the Formic Pro definitely does. I believe the Apivar Life, don't quote me on this because I don't have any. Oh wait, I do have one right here. Apivar Life, or excuse me, Apilife VAR should be okay still. I don't know if I can. Oh, I got to peel the. I can't because I got to peel the label off on the other side to be able to see it. I don't want to rip it open right now. I'm pretty sure that the Apivar Life is also okay during honey flow when supers are on. So yeah, just read your packaging. You can probably look them up online too, and just take a quick look. Make sure that stuff hasn't changed. But that's why the Formic Pro is so popular, which is why we're out of it, because that one you can use with supers on, or during honey flow. I'm waiting to see if Ken's going to put his question up here because I didn't get it on YouTube. If you have another question, of course, you watch our YouTube. The links to our YouTube and our Facebook are both on our website at greatlakesbeesupply.com. If for some reason one's not working great for you, maybe you want to try to connect to us via the other one. Our Facebook videos, when we do these videos right here, we leave them up for a couple of days, but we do not delete them on YouTube. So if you caught some of this or you're seeing this recorded and then you can't find it or whatnot, just pop over to YouTube because our stuff's always over there. So,
has anybody had any critters bothering their hives?
No mice yet?
Any mice or any raccoons or anything that's been getting in your hives? Of course, we make sure that we tell you in the classes that the hives can go out, and in most cases you realize that the propolis ties the hive together into one big mass, and this time of year that hive is pretty big. I mean, it weighs 10 times what a raccoon does, so he's going to have a pretty hard time to get in there. But it's possible that you could get some critter digging around or pushing it around or trying to climb in. A raccoon would be the worst because they have a lot of dexterity. Of course, we tell you don't put your hives in a horse pasture. You can put them in a chicken pen. Works great because the chickens are on the ground and they pick all the bugs up off the ground, but they're too short and stupid to get up and eat the bees. So putting them in a chicken pen is a pretty good thing to do. But in a horse pasture, the horses won't want the honey. They won't want to get in the hive, but they like to scratch their necks. And when they rub up and down on a hive, they're going to knock it over because a horse is, of course, bigger than a hive. So you're not supposed to put them in when you have large livestock. But a chicken pen works great. The chickens cover the ground and bugs just don't get around. I mean, they take care of ants and everything. So that's a pretty good thing to have it in, actually.
Okay, so we got a question from Ken. He checked the hives on 7-1 and they were all doing well. Checked yesterday and one is queenless. There was a hatched queen cell. When should I check again? So the first thing I'm going to say is if there was only one hatched queen cell, that's going to be pretty unlikely that that process is going to work. So usually when a hive makes queen cells, I don't know if it's a supersedure cell or if it's a swarm cell. I'm assuming it's a supersedure cell. Happened halfway up on the side of the frame, not along the bottom. So if it's a supersedure cell, they should make 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus of those if they're trying to requeen. If there's only one, then the chances are going to be slim that that one queen hatched, went out for her mating flights, came back, and is going to be able to lay eggs. Not impossible, but not great chances. If there were more than one supersedure cell in the hive when they tried to make a new queen, you're going to have 16 or 18 days before that queen emerges from those cells, right? From when they move the egg up and they fill it up with the right composition of royal jelly, or some people at this point are saying lack of royal jelly, and they cap it. When she comes out, you're going to have, with good weather, you're probably going to have anywhere from 2 or 3 days to a week, maybe more, for her to be able to do her mating flights. She's got to find drones from some other hive besides hers. She can't mate with drones from her own hive. So as she's doing her mating flights in and out in good weather, then she should return and you should start to see eggs. So if you opened up the hive and you saw a queen cell, a supersedure cell, and it was open, right? The little lid they chewed off and it was opened up like a tin can, a spinach can when Popeye eats it, the lid's off, but it's still dangling or still open and hooked to the cell. That means she's, of course, emerged and she should be doing her mating flights. You don't know when she came out of that cell, right? So you don't know exactly what you should do for a deadline, but you will probably give her 2 weeks now that she's out of that cell. And I would say in about 2 weeks, if you don't start to see eggs, then that process may not have worked. You would be able to tell a little bit by how much cat brood you still have in the hive. If you still have a lot of cat brood in the hive, you still have some time to wait and see, so you don't need to get too excited, right? Because if that cat brood is still capped, even when it starts to emerge, you still have 6 weeks of work from all of those bees in that cat brood before you have to really start to worry about things. So you do have a little bit of time. If you got in the hive and you noticed that that supersedure cell was open, the queen has been out, but there's no cat brood, you're going to have to pay a little bit more attention to the process, because you might not have very much time to go before your hive is going to start to really tank in population, because all of the last bees that emerged out of those cap cells are going to start to age. So you want to consider, what you're comfortable with watching for eggs, as unfortunately a little bit of an estimate. If you are not comfortable with that process and you're like, I really don't want to wait because I don't want to lose this hive. If you have more than one hive, you can grab some eggs from another hive, brush the bees off the frame, and put that frame in the new one, and they will kickstart and they'll put new cells out and they'll try to make a new queen. Or you can shorten that process up by finding and purchasing a mated queen and just putting her in the hive. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to scroll down just a second. We're going to get to your question too with your permacomb. Just 1 second. Ken says there was only one cell, no cat brood. I gave them a frame of eggs and brood from another hive. Okay, so that was the right thing to do, right? No cat brood, one cell. That's not great. So you gave them eggs from another hive, and they should take those eggs and they should try to make several new queen cells and try to make a new queen. One of the downfalls of this back and forth chat via text is unfortunate, but clarification is a little hard. I want to make sure that that one cell was not from the frame of eggs you grabbed from another hive and put in there. If that was the case, then I wouldn't do that again. That's probably why all your cat brood is gone. So I would probably think about maybe getting a queen and putting it in that hive, especially if it's a nice, strong, large hive. You don't want to lose it. So it's probably going to be a lot faster this time of year to just find yourself a mated queen and buy her and install her. And that timeline of waiting for her for 16 days to emerge and then another maybe week or two for her to mate before she starts to lay, you're gonna shorten that time frame up a lot. So make it clear with the information that I can get. Tried using the permacomb and they won't store honey in them. Suggestions to motivate them. You can do sugar water spray, put sugar water in a spray bottle and spray on it. They'll go up, they'll clean it off, and in the process of working on it and cleaning it all off, they should start to use it. Or put it right in front of their face, move it down and get it down into the hive where the bulk of the bees are, at least long enough for them to be able to use it, walk across it, make it kind of feel like part of their hive. We have problems sometimes when people put a super on, especially with a queen excluder, the bees just won't move up into the super and build, even though the hive is reaching capacity. So we usually tell people take the honey super, move it down between two of the deeps. The bees will start walking all over it. They'll get their pheromone all over it. They'll really start to use it. Then when they start drawing comb back on it, move it back up where you want to move it, and they will generally accept that. So either put it right down in the middle of the boxes, down lower in the stack to really get them to use it, or try squirting sugar water on it. See if that helps. Sometimes, like some of the foundations we've had this year, we've had a couple people say, I put another deep on, but they won't use the foundation, the black plastic foundation. And some of the companies, not ours, but some companies that you buy the stuff from, they're not wax coated. You slap that plastic piece in there, 10 of those frames without any wax on them, especially if the bottom box was waxed, they're going to have a real hard time wanting to go up in that and add wax to that plastic and start doing their thing on those frames. So just make sure that that foundation you got is wax coated already, because somewhere, I don't know where they're getting it yet, but we've had a couple customers say something like that. I don't know if they ordered it online or they got it from a chain feed store or something, but they were like, I bought it from them because I was there and I needed some. And it might have been slightly cheaper, it might have been the same price. I don't remember. We just had a lady buy some of it and she was telling us about it. She says, but my bees won't use it. And I said, well, it's either not coated in wax, or sometimes the boxes of foundation in a warehouse from who knows where it comes from could set in storage for a long time. And we have had instances where this was years and years ago now, but we used to have where we'd get a box of foundation in and none of the bees at our farm would ever use them. And we basically surmised that those boxes probably sat perhaps somewhere in trucks, semi-trucks, or in warehouses for too long, possibly next to a chemical stacked next to it or above it or whatnot. And, you know, bees are very reactive and very responsive to smells and pheromones and things. And it could be that they didn't, whatever got on it. Maybe they got wet and moldy. Maybe something dripped on them. Maybe the proximity to the box that they were in, who knows? But something made it so they didn't want to use it anymore. We had that once or twice years and years ago, and we haven't had it since, but that could be another reason. Just lost a hive to beetles. Oh no, Lisa, how can I protect and treat from the other hives? And what about honey supers during treatment? So hive beetles, Lisa, did you have your beetle traps in? Your plastic beetle traps or your beetle jails? Because it's pretty tough to lose a hive to beetles if you've got those in your hive. So you got a plastic one, a beetle trap up there? So there's a beetle jail, Lisa. This is a little plastic jail. The little tops on these flip up and flip open so you can refill them, right? So this is a beetle jail. You can put it in. This basically just fills halfway up with oil, hooks over a frame, and you can clean it out. And then we have the beetle traps. Now, you're saying, yes, you had beetle traps in there. If you check these traps and you start to see beetles in them, especially the clear plastic ones that are disposable, these guys here, if you open it up when you're doing your inspections in your hive, you should be looking at these. And if you see that the oil is still half in there, and then you see all kinds of little black bugs down at the bottom of that oil all the way across, that's your hive beetles. If you start to see that many, if you start to see more than 3 or 4 in your traps, either one, you're starting to have a beetle problem. If the hive beetles get to be too prolific in your hive, then they will start their reproductive cycle. You'll get those nasty little worm maggots that crawl around in your hive and diagonally, and they eat little trails through your through your comb, and they'll eat your honey and things like that. And eventually they'll force the bees to either abscond or die because they can't keep their honey and their brood going. So if you had hive beetle in one hive and you lost it, then, and you have more than one hive, I would get these traps, make sure these traps are in the other ones, and I would just check them. They're very effective, but I would just check them and make sure that if they start to fill up, we usually say as a preventative, one trap in each hive until they start to fill up. And if they really start to fill up, add more traps. Your bees will try to push them into corners and keep them off the hive and out of the comb. And eventually they'll run into these traps, and it's work. They'll keep doing it, but you got to have enough traps for them to run them around and get them into the traps. The other thing you can do too is look up maybe like a YouTube and look at dryer sheets, unscented, chemical-free dryer sheets. Those are extremely effective at catching the little spines on the hairs on the beetles. They will catch bees, however, so you have to make a little screen, kind of a cage, if you will, and you have to put the dryer sheets in them. Some of them make 2 pieces of cardboard very close together with a dryer sheets all crumpled up on the inside, so that the gap between the pieces of cardboard is not big enough for the bees to get in, but is big enough for the hive beetle to run away and get in. And they'll get in on those dryer sheets, and they cannot get off of those dryer sheets. They'll get stuck in them. So there are some products out there too that are essentially dryer sheets. They're just marketing them and labeled them as bee-specific beetle, I don't know, beetle cloths or something like that. But an unscented, chemical-free dryer sheet, as long as you can keep your bees out of it, will be a very effective way of catching beetles as well. So hopefully that helps. There's no strip or chemical to kill hive beetle. It's not that necessary as long as you've got a bunch of traps in your hive, especially if you have a problem, or the dryer sheets. Those are very effective too. So hopefully that helps. Benjamin, how many beetle traps should you use, and what boxes should they be in? We always have one beetle trap half full of the oil in the bottom deep on every hive. Every year we start that way and we end that way. We keep them in all year. We check them, and if they start to get filled up with beetles, then we add more traps, 1 to each deep, maybe even. If they really start getting filled up, keep putting the traps in, because you've got to catch the adults quick enough so that they don't start to reproduce, because when they start to reproduce is when you start to lose your hive. So they're like $2, $3, $4. They're not expensive things. So put them in as a preventative in your first deep. And if they start to fill up, then add more of them until they quit filling up. That's going to be your best approach. Or you can do the dryer sheets too, and you'll catch them in the dryer sheets. You'll see them, but you got to look at the things. You don't just put them in and then not look at them anymore, because if they fill up, or if the oil spilled out the last time you were in the box because you picked it up and tilted it when you sat it down, then they're not going to be effective anymore. So 1 is good for preventative. And as you start to see beetles collect in it, add more, because you've got a problem. You may have a problem. Okay.
The black and clear beetle traps are the disposable ones. When they get beetles in them, you just throw it away.
That's these you throw away. They're cheaper than the other ones.
The beetle jail, you can open up, dump the beetles out, close it back up, and fill it up with oil again. So it is reusable. It's a good thing to put in. And when you do a hive check, always monitor it, always watch it. And that will tell you whether you got beetles or not. It's just like a thermometer in there. It will tell you how many beetles you have. And if you start getting it filled up with, say, 20, 25 in there, then add more beetle traps. And just leave them right in there, because they work 24 hours a day, and they do take care of the problem. But the disposal ones work real well, and the beetle jails work real well. The beetle jails can be cleaned out and re-oiled again and put back in your hive. So you have 2 options there with your beetles. Beetles in general this year haven't been much of a problem. We have, tell you the truth, in our hives out to the farm, I haven't seen a beetle in our hive yet. It all depends on where you are, if you're around water, if you're around a lot of farm animals, different things like that. Different things can attract the beetles in general, and your hive just happens to be located in a spot that was attracted from something else. So it's 2 years ago, they were terrible. 2 years ago, we had like 2 beetle traps in each box to control them. But this year, in monitoring and looking at them, we haven't hardly had any. So it's just something that individuals have to watch for.
That's very specific to different areas too. I mean, it's just because we don't have any doesn't mean obviously somebody else does, like Lisa. But now, just quickly, we do have 2 of the apivars Karen was asking about. I just checked. We had 2 of the apivars left and the apiguard packets for your varroa. So we'll have more coming in, but there was 2 pushed behind our super DFM that we have in the case. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions? Thanks for doing these presentations. They are very helpful. No problem, Ken. We're trying to do our best to still be out there and to be able to still try to help beekeepers be successful. This year has been a great year so far for a lot of beekeepers. Hives are big, and hopefully we're holding our breath. Hopefully we don't get any aerial spraying, at least in Southwest Michigan this year for Triple E. We'll see how that goes, but if we don't have to deal with that, then we should have a reasonably good year for our bees. Winterization will be our focus coming up because that's going to be important to the survivor, to your hive surviving winter. So you're welcome. We like doing it. We love doing them. We try to help any chance we can. If you don't make these videos, you don't have to get your question in for whatever reason, you're watching them recorded, call our store. I don't care if you're in Arizona, call our store. We'll help you as best we can. Or pass you on to somebody who can. Sometimes we refer you to universities. Sometimes we refer you to specific people for different things. So call us at our store. You can get on our website at greatlakesbeesupply.com. We still are on our reduced hours. We are only open Thursday and Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., Saturday from 10 to 6, and Sunday from noon to 4, and that's all Eastern Standard Time. We will be increasing our hours in the next couple of weeks to 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we intend on riding with those a little expanded hours for a while now. We just COVID's going crazy, and we kind of want to just take it easy still and try to be open and try to be helpful and try to be here for everybody through the beekeeping season. But we won't be to our 7 days a week schedule, I suspect, this year. So, but anyway, call if you get our voicemail, leave us a voicemail. Feel free to leave comments on our YouTubes or our Facebooks. I'm on those way too much, unfortunately, for work. So I will answer your questions as best myself or somebody else as best we can too. So if we can be of help, please call on us. Okay. So if there's no more questions, we're probably going to wrap it up because we're beat. It's been a long day. We were busy today, which is a good thing right now. Yeah, thanks everybody and have a good evening. And we're glad you tuned in, and we'll be back on next Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. Thank you. Bye.